Hey, folks, welcome to another edition of Broken Brain with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Mac Parkman Foundation, where we look at the issue of repetitive brain trauma in two forms: repetitive head impacts from contact sports and repetitive blast exposure for our military veterans, and how these two conditions are affecting the brains and the mental health of our kids, our athletes, and our veterans. And why do we do this is because this is not taught in any medical nursing, psychological, or suicide prevention training program in this country. And that's why you need to be informed. For you are the first line of defense for those that you love. So we bring on authors and doctors and researchers and scientists and patients and victims and parents, so that you get that 360-degree holistic view of this issue, so you can make informed decisions about those you love and those that you know are suffering. On our show today, another amazing guest. I don't know where Denny finds these guys, man. It's pretty amazing. Travis Wilson. Travis Wilson is a 20-year U.S. Army veteran and former Green Beret with over 13 years in Special Forces. He began his career in 1995 as an airborne medic before earning his place as an 18 Echo communication specialist with the 10th Special Forces Group in Colorado Springs. Now, what does that mean? That means he's very smart, because Echoes and Deltas are the smartest guys in Special Forces, and everybody that can't pass those becomes Bravos and Charlies. So just so you know, very smart man. After retiring in 2017, has channeled his passion for health and performance into entrepreneurship, founding Alpha Elite Performance, a premium supplement brand rooted in the strength, discipline, and professionalism of the Special Forces community. Through Alpha Elite Performance, Travis continues his mission to help both military and civilian athletes reach peak physical and mental performance. Travis, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks, Bruce. It's good to see you again, my man.
Yeah, last time I saw you, I think it was one of them big Sophic parties. I think a couple of years ago was one of those, one of the after events that the Global Soft Foundation
Yeah,
holds.
yeah. We've ran into each other a number of different times. I did see you at Mick, and I meant to stop by and say hi to you, but I got real busy and then I had to leave pretty quickly. But I see you everywhere.
Oh, you guys were at Mick. Good for you, man. I thought I saw your booth. Dude, that was a crazy show, man. A lot of interest in what we're both doing there, man. I think I'll go back. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I was a keynote speaker there a few years back, and then I've just always gone back and supported and participated this year.
Okay, have you done MCon? We just figured that we finished that one in Las Vegas this year.
Y-
That's a little
I have
different.
not. Nope, I haven't been able to. Right now is the time around MCon is when I don't know, life gets real busy between nonprofit space and supplement industry. This is kind of peak season as well. So
Good on you, man.
yeah,
Yeah, it was okay show, but anyways, yeah. So hey, tell us what's going on, man. I mean, let's talk about your military career first. Well, let's talk about what did you do in the military, and how is that obviously affecting what you're doing post career.
sure. Yeah, no. So I'll start even before that with my father being a PJ pararescue a guy, and then becoming a PA. Mother was in the nursing field as well, so I was always around health and wellness and the medical field. So kind of always had an interest in that. Kind of excelled at the sciences in high school and did really bad though in all the other things. But joined the army after a year at a preparatory school for college. Wentworth Military Academy is what it was called. Dropped out, joined the army, became a medic. Loved that. Wasn't good enough, so I went to selection in '99 to become a Green Beret, got selected. Really kind of pissed off the regiment and saying, hey, actually, I want to go back to school if you guys can just hold out. They didn't like that, but I did end up going back to school to Boise State, learning exercise science. And then the war started kicking off, and I was like, I had to go back, you know, went back into the army and called up the regiment, said, hey, I'm back. I want to be a Green Beret. They're like, no, go to war. Call us later. So, went to war for a year. And while I was there, I was a medic in a trauma, forward surgical trauma team in an ER, the 21st Combat Hospital. Whole time I was there, once we got phones, I called the regiment and said, hey, I want to go back. They're like, okay, cool. We'll take you. We need bodies. So fortunately, didn't have to go back through selection. Went to the Q course, became a Green Beret. And yeah, and then, back to back deployments there at 10th Group, once I showed up in '05, and it was nonstop, just doing whatever. I say that I was a mediocre Green Beret, did everything that I think all the other Green Berets did. Just went to combat, enjoyed it, saved a life, kicked in some doors, and did things for my nation. So yeah, as
Good
an
on
actor,
you.
which was weird.
Nah, man, that goes well. It's a lot of I used to have a leg key in Morse code, man, back in my day, dude, in the jungles of South America. I didn't know that was comms for us, bro. Blind transmission broadcast, 160 count BDBs.
Yeah.
So it's
I
all
got with the
changed.
first class that didn't have Morse code.
See that? Oh man, you got over, bro. God
Yeah.
dang,
Yeah.
dang, man. That thing whooped my ass, bro. That's no fun. I was so happy when I graduated.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
yeah, then I think we got our first satellite radio just as I think I was leaving Panama. Anyways, by the time I was retiring, everybody had satellite this and satellite that. And I
Yeah.
mean, back then we used to have little metal before the DMDG, these little federal metal tapes from Vietnam that they used to record. It was nuts, man.
Yeah,
But
I bet.
so you finished up as an 18 Echo, all right, or were
Yeah.
you a Zulu?
Nope, just an echo. I had a near fatal free fall accident towards the end of my career, and they gave me an opportunity to heal up. So I took every opportunity to do just that, as opposed to sitting around moping and worrying about my ailments. But I had disc replacement surgery. I've had two partial knee replacements, ankle reconstruction, surgeries in all, and then spent 8 weeks at the Brain Treatment Center, and then went over to the RC and did a lot of Intel stuff over there, which didn't require kicking indoors and all that good stuff. So, Lou Palka, Command Sergeant Major Lou Palka, kind of recruited me for that. So I'm thankful. Yeah. So I didn't get the boot, the medical boot. So I got to stay in and retire, and that's what I did. And so yeah, that was a crazy one. Night Dust Devil did me in there in Eloy. We were getting ready to go on a deployment, and I turned on final 500 feet. The right side of my canopy decided to fold up, and so I just burned in.
You just
I had
burned
enough
in.
lift to keep me alive, but it was quite the impact.
Ha, dude. Yeah. I mean, yeah, no fun, man. Well, and this is what I want the audience to understand. What Travis goes through. Like we all have near fatal stories. I mean, I almost died 8 times in the
Yeah,
army. Vehicle rollovers, helicopter crashes. I mean, dude, it's but some of us end up getting damaged more than others. And
yeah.
so
And I,
yeah,
and
I
I did.
mean,
I don't even bring up the combat stories because like we all had those blast injuries and that overpressure. I liked it earlier in the show when you started this. You talk about sports. I grew up playing hockey. I actually played hockey at Boise State, so I wanted to go back to school, but played hockey and football. So used my head a lot, in defense of the puck or the football. So
and what's interesting too is that in the special operations community, they're finding out that all of us, well, most of us, have really crappy father-son relationships. Don't know why. It's just part of who we are. A lot of us are. But the other part is they're finding out that a lot of us, and a lot of people in the military played contact sports before they joined. So it's like, and that, of course, that damage, that doesn't become apparent till later on, but it does contribute over time, to it just becomes exacerbated by what we do as professional soldiers. Let's dive into that for a little bit. Tell us about, the repetitive blast exposure that you went through as a Green Beret, even though you say you're a mediocre Green Beret, right, dude?
man,
No, but all right, tell us what mediocre Green Berets go through, when you join the Army, and you end up going to back tours. And,
yeah.
and I want you to focus on, did it ever end? You said it was nonstop. So you're either going to combat or training for combat, right?
Yeah, I mean, but 2005 to 2011 was really combat deployments. A couple Northern Africa, deployments, but a coup was happening. There was some shit that went down there as well. But does it ever stop? No. I mean, then in the RSC, I ended up deploying, but to Eastern Europe. So you can imagine what that was like. That was just some intel shit at an embassy, trying to get rid of all the women that want to chase you around. So all the honeypots. So it was combat there too.
And in the war in El Salvador, they had a saying like if you met a girl and you kind of linked up for the night, it was called a combate de encuentra, which was the term for actually a firefight engagement. That's what they said in Spanish. So yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah, I mean, all those blast injuries, in Iraq, even as a young Green Beret, I was tasked to, and this is where we don't think about the brain and that overpressure and blast exposure. I was tasked to go into the corner of a room, take a piece of plywood and put it, against one wall and against the other. And I was in that A frame of that wall with a camera filming our little Jundies throwing in those flashbangs. They had to throw it towards me, and it would usually bounce off that plywood or land right in front of me, and then boom, and then they would come in and practice CQB as we were teaching. I think I was in there for a good 3-4 hours just filming these dudes throwing in concussion grenades. Now, what does that do to a dude's head, even behind the plywood? I didn't have my helmet on. I just ducked, and
In a concrete room.
in a concrete room. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, stay in there, Trav, and film so we can get this great coverage. We need storyboard stuff and all that crap. I was like, Jesus. So, but we don't think about that. But then you go out and you do combat and firefights and all that. IED, that overpressure is legit. I've had 2 of those go off near me. And that is an overpressure that, will rattle your brain. It'll rattle your teeth. So you combine that with my free fall accident and what I had there with that TBI, life gets a little difficult after that, as far as relationships, as far as emotion, as far as focus and attention span. And then I found out the hard way. I mean, I was still mildly, there's that word again. I was somewhat intelligent, but I worked through it, but found out that, and then what the Army wanted to do was throw ADHD medicine at you. Like, oh, well, you got ADHD now and you just have PTSD. And I'm telling you, there was nothing in my career that messed with me as far as PTSD is concerned. It was a head injury. And I found that out later when I went to the brain treatment center and got to see those scans and what my brain really looked like. So, and that's where we started that M.E.R.T, magnetic electroresonance therapy, which I started to notice right away.
Yeah.
But from that, started dabbling in stem cells. Huge science.
All right.
Guys.
So before, because M.E.R.T's a big topic, man. I want to talk about that a little bit. But
Absolutely.
I mean, let's go back. I mean, you as a mediocre, moderately grinded Green Beret guy, you're glossing over a lot of really cool shit here. I mean, so.
I just don't want anything to come back, and be like, no, I'm not one of those.
No. But the thing is, I want people to understand that, you throw in a concussion grenade, that's one type of, thing. When you engage in combat, how often were you wearing, ear protection?
Actually, I was wearing all the time, really, except there was a few times where I had it off when I was talking on a hand mic. But I was dual comms usually with those Peltors, so I was running those Peltors quite often.
Okay. But the issue with blast exposure is just, the ears are the easiest channel in, but it does come through the whole head. So, you're talking incoming, you're talking outgoing, AT4s, Call Gustavs, all this is trauma. But then you talk about an IED. I mean, they don't, those things are bombs, bro. Right?
Yeah. And I feel like you get a double, maybe a triple type of, even in car accidents, when your brain hits, you get hit and your brain hits the front of your brain and then it sloshes back and there's 3 modes of brain damage in a car accident. I feel like in an IED, it's kind of the same way. You have that, and then it feels like it comes back at you or something. I don't know. It's not just a rush of air over your head. It's a pressure.
Yeah.
And so even with Peltors, those are Gen 1 Peltors, so I can't imagine, they were the greatest, but I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I mean, they help you talk on the radio without just holding a mic to ear like in my day. What'd you say, sir? It's actually communicating over, the radio, which is kind of cool. But I just, I like people to kind of dive into that a little bit so that our audience understands that, we're talking years, and then you come back from combat, and then you start training for the next iteration. So what's that look like? That's,
you get home, you get a little time with mama and family, and then you're right back into the training cycle, which, we have to get that demo pay. So you're doing demo, door charges, going to the range for weeks at a time, which isn't a bad thing. It's fun. It's a good time. But a lot of that overpressure, that continuous overpressure during range time, it adds up as well. And like the demo stuff, free fall stuff, every landing is just, controlled chaos. It's even at night on a free fall jump, it's half brakes and you're balling up into a ball and hitting the ground hard. So static line, even worse, I think. You still had to maintain that, sometimes. Well, I did 65 of those and quit, but.
Yeah, I never had it. I mean, I was on Halo status for, I don't know, 12 years. I think I went through in 88, and then I retired in 01. I just jumped for pay. I could never get on a Halo team, right? So every 3 months, if there was a Halo jump, of course, I'd rather do that than static line stuff. But
Yeah.
But I never did all the night jumps you guys did with chem
And we
lights and
would
all
do
that
those jump
craziness.
recalls, and that's 30 jumps in a month, like, or in 3 weeks. Like, you're really hauling through those jumps,
Yeah,
wall off your jumps at night, hitting the ground.
packing
You
up.
you don't really get to jump slick. It's usually, "Hey, we're jumping at night with something," to include bundles.
Bundles, rucksacks, rifles. I tell people all the time that all the crap that I had to strap on my body, and I
Yeah,
never did it like, you guys did it for real. I did it for pay, right?
yeah.
So I jumped a lot of slick stuff too. But yeah, there's a lot of damage, dude. So you end up retiring. Obviously you got the physiological issues that you're dealing with from the jump, and just from all the trauma that our bodies go through when we do it. When did you notice that your mental health started being impacted? Was it while you're in? Because you said they were prescribing you ADHD stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I would after I think my 3rd deployment, I was angry, and it wasn't anger at anyone, I was just irritated, and not because we were training, deploying, or leaving. It wasn't, that now ex-wife. It wasn't her at that time. It was just an irritation that wouldn't go away. And later learned, that my brain was fire hot red,
Eh.
from damage. The frequencies were gone. They were offset. We all have a frequency in our brain, and mine were just, you know, the knob was turned completely 180. So, um, it was after my 3rd deployment, 2008 or 9, 8, I think, is when I started to notice that, and it just started to progress, and then really kind of kicked in after my free fall accident, and you know, I was sent to the basement for a little bit, and Rolf Jensen, Sergeant Jensen at that time.
Rolf made Sergeant Major.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I love that. As a matter of fact, you know what? I did see him at 10th Group. There was a reunion there, and I was like, he did make Sergeant Major.
yeah,
Him
yeah,
and Tommy. Somebody I worked with Rolf. He was an E7, I think, back in my day.
yeah.
Back then, what a
Maybe
great
Tom
guy.
Sandoval. I don't know if you're gonna say Sandoval, but he
Yeah,
was a
Tom, he was a big tatted guy, man. Did some time in South Africa. He was on Ricky Peterson's team. I'll think of his name, but he became Sergeant Major. But Bill Clark, whole bunch of guys that
yeah.
worked for me back in the day. But Ralph, man, Ralph was he was one of those guys that you never thought, right? He was crazy back in my day, man. But
Well,
what a great dude. Yeah.
he was like, "Hey, man, I need you to write the entire SOP for 10th Group's air operations, please. Just rewrite it." And I'm like, "Dude, what?" And so I did that. But it was then I was like, I can't focus. I'm sitting here trying to type, copy, and paste a lot of stuff because air operations don't really change, but there's a lot of new things that come in, shoots and all that stuff. Got a lot of travel out of that because I had to go jump in Germany with that 110, so I had to go out there a few times.
Of course. Yeah. Probably right during Oktoberfest, right?
Yeah, Springfest, Oktoberfest, yeah, yeah.
10th Group, dude.
Well, I had to make sure that the air quality was the same, and that the
Yeah.
chute lift, all that. So
Yeah, the schnitzels weren't poisoned. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
exactly. I care about those guys. But but yeah, it went, and that's when I went to the psych and started figuring out that something just wasn't right, and they confirmed it, but again, they wanted to throw pills at me, and the pills were gonna save me, and all that really did is, I mean, I got a little thinner. I was amped. I didn't need ADHD medicine. I didn't need Adderall, so it was, but so I threw that shit away, and then started focusing on my exit out of the service, and focusing on mental health, and reaching out to folks about it, paying out
Nice.
of pocket for shrinks and stuff, and so
Yeah, nah, dude. So, all right, yeah. So, once you got out, what was your focus then, man? I mean, obviously, I want to talk about how where you're at right now. Absolutely. Tell us about the transition because a lot of people don't know how tough it is, man. When you transition, I mean, I transitioned before there was 9/11, so it was, I'm getting ready to become a Walmart guard. I mean, that's how bad it was. I didn't have a network. There was no defense
yeah.
contracting jobs, but it hasn't, the toughness hasn't changed at all. It's still a trial, man. Tell us about your transition.
Yeah, so I started to prepare for my transition early. I did start a business when I was active duty, a supplement store in Colorado Springs called Caliber Nutrition, and then that turned into Caliber Nutrition and Fitness. And I didn't hire, I just had personal trainers work in my facility, and they essentially rented out booth space. They rented out the gym, and they did some personal training in there and then sold supplements to them. And then, so because of that, I had a plan, and I had this plan, a year out. So my transition was a little different out in that I had already had some sort of job that I was going to fall into,
Good
having
for
my
you.
own business. And now, granted, I was going through a divorce, or I just finished up a divorce, which kind of threw a wrench in things. But I had a plan. I can't say that it was perfect, but it was a plan. And that's something I tell people now, is to have that plan. Start working on that plan a year out. When it came down to the physical things, I started from head to toe, writing all those things down a year and a half to 2 years out. What's this scar from? Why does this thumb look bigger than this thumb? And they looked at that, and they gave me a percentage for this growth that I don't have over here. And so if somebody does that, they start that plan, writing everything down, but that helps a great deal. I mean, yeah, so I would say that it wasn't perfect, but it was a good plan. But then, thinking about my brain, because I was still fired up, at that point. I started dabbling in the brain space, to get it right. Can't say that my divorce was because of anything that I did because of my brain, but maybe I could have been a little bit more compassionate and fought for something, to save that relationship, instead of just not caring. Because there is a lack of empathy when your brain isn't working.
Apathy is a bit, I mean, my son was highly apathetic before he took his life. He didn't care about anything. I just thought he was getting ready to join the army. He was a teenager, right? But yeah, to your point, man, it is part of,
Yeah.
the
And
outcome, the
Bruce,
damage.
let me tell you, I haven't been able to tell you that I'm sorry for the loss of your son. I heard about it, and I can't imagine what you went through, but I'm sorry.
Nah, dude, that's why we're talking, man. This is how I'm making it up to him. I'll see him again.
Yeah.
And this it's talking to you and guys like you and girls out there to get the word out that hey, we're all good human beings. We've all made mistakes. We've all been impacted, and we got to change this stuff, dude. I mean, what we're working on with the military and the VA right now is to, we'll talk about this, is to make a lot of stuff that you're talking about free of charge for any veteran. But we got to find these guys. We got to let them know, because the difference between your story and most of the stories we hear is that these guys didn't know they were messed up, right? They were just crazy, or they believed in the PTSD story, and I saw too many bodies, or I killed too many people, which no doubt is traumatic.
Yeah, yeah.
But they overlooked damage to this brain, which you were significantly aware of on your way out. And that makes a big difference.
I mean, it scared me. We talk about suicide because and I just had a conversation not too long ago about this, where I had a week of my life that suicide was on the docket. It was on the plate, because I had lost well, I'll take it all the way back, and maybe this affected me as well. But I've lost a son, and I've been married 3 times, and that
Oh,
first wife and I, we're friends now, but I think that our relationship ended because of the loss of our son. And then I lost a family. I lost my father. I broke my back in a lot of other parts of my body on that jump, and it just all really compounded. And I thought, what an easy thing to do, to just start a shotgun. And I thought about that for a week, and it was a brief week. I didn't think about it every day, but I was like, man, it would just be easy. And would
be
anybody?
easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be
And honestly,
easier.
I think what saved me from that is that my ex-wife's cousin out of the blue called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come to church with us this Sunday?" I wasn't a big church goer at all. I went to a Christian school as a kid, but lost that faith. But I was like, you know what? I will go. Maybe I'll meet a girl. Everybody says you meet women.
Well, there's Green Beret rationale to that story. We could.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, let me go to church. Maybe I'll meet a hottie, who can save me.
Why else go to church, right? I mean, that's what the way when my wife took me to my first church service. Exactly. I went with a hottie, but I got you,
Yeah.
brother.
So that was my thought. So that's what happened there. But yeah, I got past that, and just thought, man, I have to get my shit together. One, for my children, and two, for myself, and then whatever future relationship I have, but also my career, and what am I doing next? What's next? And how can I prosper and do really well at that? And that was just kind of getting it right upstairs, and course correcting the damage that had been done. So
Talk.
it's hard for a lot of people to recognize that. And I'd say that I had some help with, my ex-wife's cousin, asked me to church and having conversation, realizing that Adderall really was a pain in the ass medication that just made me feel really weird,
Mm.
and then also I'd say that at that time money was a big driving force. I wanted my company to take off and do really well, which then turned into what Alpha Elite Performance is today, which is my own supplement line. Uh, so I
So let's talk about putting yourself back together. I mean, we've all had journeys. I've had mine. Tell us about that. What did you do to get yourself in a better state of mind, mental, like brain health wise, like the physiological part of it?
Yeah, well, honestly, it started with exercising a little bit more than I was, using supplements to help with brain health. At that time, ginkgo biloba and all that, or whatever was big time stuff, L-theanine, shit like that. And then, but somebody mentioned that there was a nonprofit that was paying for guys to go to San Diego for M.E.R.T, and it wasn't the GBF at the time, but I do believe the GBF helped cover down on some of the costs because it's not cheap. So, but I was a great candidate and was elected to go to the Brain Treatment Center in San Diego it was supposed to be 6 weeks, but they extended that to 8 after recognizing that I needed additional treatment. And so, yeah, that's where the journey really began for that was M.E.R.T and just physical fitness. I know, that and creatine. I knew at the time, way back then, I knew that creatine was great for cognitive thought and theory and brain health. And a lot of people didn't recognize that then. It was just strictly a muscle building, product. But creatine is great for cognitive healing and just maintenance. Like
Dial
everybody's
into
taking creatine every day.
dial into that because Denny mentioned that a little bit earlier. This is the first time I've heard of creatine and brain health being associated. So if you can you talk to us about that a little bit?
I mean, it just helps with ATP release and a number of things. I can't speak to the science of it as much as a doctor can, but I can tell you that there's been a lot of studies done in the last few years in elderly, in a lot of people within, in homes, elderly homes. They're giving them anywhere between 5 and 20 grams of creatine a day, and they're recognizing that this is, or they did recognize that it increased cognitive thought. I think I said theory a minute ago, not theory,
Uh,
thought.
yeah.
Cognitive thought. 18 echo radio stuff is all theory, but science is science.
Diddy da 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 da. Yeah, I hear you, man.
So
Nah, yeah.
yeah, it's creatine is phenomenal, and I do 5 grams every day. Now, creatine and caffeine they're finding don't really work well together when you want to build muscle, but I put 5 grams of creatine, 1 scoop into my coffee in the morning because it's tasteless, and I'm getting my creatine. And
Mm.
I like the caffeine. I'm a caffeine junkie. I'm currently drinking coffee now.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah,
I'm off it because I'm going on an ibogaine journey next week. So yeah,
gotcha.
so I want to be able to walk the walk, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
No,
yeah,
we can talk about that as well because I've done some stuff with that. But yeah, creatine is great, and I highly recommend creatine for cognitive thought and
okay. No,
healing.
that's cool. And so tell us about your M.E.R.T. because I just came across this about on my podcast about 9 months ago. It was a Green Beret and his wife, Chris, I think, and Melissa. They have two clinics in Virginia, I think. And they were talking about how this just changed their lives. He had suffered his own SF stuff. She was brutally beaten as a cop, and their son was nonverbal autistic. And
Yep, that's how it
MER
starts.
yeah, M.E.R.T. like helped them all so dramatically. So, but it was 8 weeks, huh? How many treatments and what's it like? Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's 8 weeks, 5 days a week for an hour a day. You show up, and I'll tell you that it was pretty awesome. I showed up and they said, "Hey, let's go to this room and I just want to show you some paintings." So went in there and the paintings were all dark and gloomy and reds and blacks and purples and just nothing that you wanted to look at. I was like, "Great, these guys suck. They're the worst artists I've ever seen in my life." And I didn't think anything of it other than that was a wasted, 5 minutes of my life. Started the sessions and they asked me if I wanted to paint, and I was like, "No, I don't wanna paint, thanks." Started the sessions and, for like I said, an hour a day for 5 days a week for 8 weeks. And what my so we were in San Diego at the time, and my wife recognized when we were driving, that she's like, "Why are you driving so slow?" We were on, the 5, there in San Diego, the Highway 5, I-5, whatever it's called. And I was just driving under the speed limit. She's like, "Why are you driving so slow?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just chill." Like there was an immediate effect on calming me down on day one. And that continued, and it was just great that I didn't need to go the same speed as everybody else. Why, in fact, why are they going so damn fast? Where are they trying to get to in a hurry? That was where my mindset was going. And Emily thought that was just wicked. And she started telling people like, I don't know what this voodoo shit is, but it's working.
It is working.
So I did that for 8 weeks, and you just sit there. The M.E.R.T, the machine, it doesn't touch your skin, but it sets, in the direction or the placement that it needs to be, where the damage is. I had a black dot on one side of my brain. I can't remember. And that's where they placed that. And then the rest of my head and brain was just oranges and reds and yellows. And they want it to be, pretty colors of blues and greens and stuff.
What scan were they? Can I ask what scan? Was it a DTI scan or a spec scan or?
I think it was a specs. I had to put on the little helmet or cap.
Yeah. Okay.
And they put all
yeah, could be a QEEG too, but yeah, but you talked to the colors. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I put that on, and they do the scan. They show me what my brain looks like, and they're like, "Yeah, it's damaged, son." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit." And did the M.E.R.T for an hour, like I said. And I'll go back to your point. This really started for children who were nonverbal autistic children, and they saw that when they doing this M.E.R.T training that they started to speak. And so they, well, what else can we use this for? And it just got into brain health and healing and changing that frequency on damaged brains. And so I thought that was genius that some of the active duty special operations guys would bring their language lab books with them because once you're going through M.E.R.T, it increased learning. So they would sit there and study as opposed, just sat there and bullshitted with the guy across from me and did some puzzles. They sat there and they studied their language. Yeah, they cheated. Well, I mean, you gotta have a 1-1 to get paid.
Dude, right? Hey, man, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, bro.
That's right. So they sat there and they studied their language because it absorbs better. I guess you just become more of a sponge.
Wow.
So that's what the M.E.R.T was. And I'll fast forward to the end here where they took me into another room and said, "What do you think about these paintings?" And I was like, "Oh, these are nice. What's the difference? Why are all those dark ones over there? And why are these pretty ones in here? And these are really nice paintings and pretty colors and all that and happy." He's like, "Well, those paintings were pre-M.E.R.T. And then they went through their M.E.R.T sessions, and this is at the end of their M.E.R.T, and it was night and day of how they felt." And he asked me if I wanted to do a painting as well at the end. And I was like, honestly, out of respect, I didn't do it, the first time. I don't want to do it now, but I understand why they painted this way because this is how I feel. And it was great. It was a really good lesson, on how M.E.R.T changes the brain and the functionality of it and how it heals. Now, my wife will say that I probably need some touch up, but we've been married 10 years now, so it's 8,
we
9
all
years.
need it. We all need a touch up, bro. We all need a touch up, man. Yeah.
Right.
So how did that experience start impacting? So tell us about your business, right? Tell us about, we're here to also talk about, we never miss a chance to make a sales pitch, right?
Yeah, right.
So
Absolutely.
tell us about Alpha Elite, and then more to me. How did this M.E.R.T impact you as a business leader, right? Like and a husband and the whole 9 yards.
Right. Yeah. So we ended up moving to San Diego, moved out to Coronado Island, and started living there. I was doing M.E.R.T training or M.E.R.T therapy, and I'll tell you that I can't say that it helped the business. It helped me become just a better person, more focused and more driven. I've always been a driven kind of guy. I mean, we're Green Berets. We get picked for a reason, right? So it really just kind of fine-tuned or it reset where I think I was at one point in my young adult life, where I was more driven, like I'm going to be a Green Beret. I can do this. So now I've got this business of Alpha Elite Performance, and it's really just starting to kick off, but I really wanted to kick off more. So was really diving into it more so than I think before the M.E.R.T. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's your business. It's your baby. You want to be driven. You got to be, or else you'll fail. And I just am not going to fail. So
tell us about the company. I mean, I know that are you still on the fitness side of it? Tell us about your supplement line.
I mean, the wife is still a personal trainer and all that stuff, and there was talk about doing that through our company. But it's strictly it's Alpha Elite Performance. We provide supplements to stores and across the nation, direct to consumer. We have 2 products: our ODA Super Greens, it's a heavy metal detox. We have some pre and post studies that were done with it. It's approved for use by the Special Warfare Center in schools for guys to use during the course. because it's you can't use a lot of supplements. But it's a heavy metal detox. It has a shroom blend in there as well for brain health, and then all the veggies that you need for a greens drink. And
Okay.
it doesn't taste like you're licking the bottom of a boot. There's no punishment involved with this.
I just ran out of super greens to put in my protein shake, so I'll
Yeah.
be on your website right after this.
Good. Yeah, it's delicious. I guarantee it. And then we have a sleep aid. Again, huge into brain health, and I know that REM sleep is where healing and recovery happens. And so it's called GBNT sleep, Green Beret nap time.
I laid that on somebody the other day for the first time. So I'm gonna get a little GBNT. They
There
go,
you
what
go.
the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, so ours is GBNT sleep. Now, granted, on the front it says sleep in bigger letters, but it's GBNT sleep. And that's made to get you to REM sleep. REM sleep is where the healing happens and all that good stuff. The downfall to that one though, and I just can't figure it out, is when you get 4 hours of REM, and you can see this like on a Whoop app or your iPhone watch or whatnot, you'll
Or
see
a
your
ring.
sleep. Yeah, yeah. If I wake up to go pee for any reason after 4 hours of REM, I kind of feel like I'm ready to go for the day, So,
Yeah.
but a lot of times I do sleep a good 7 to 8 hours hard for the
Sleep's
most part.
important, man.
Yeah. Not all of it REM sleep, but a lot of it is now. That we have, yeah. So our ODA Super Greens are sleep. We have a collagen with type 1 and 3 bovine. We have an immune product that we developed with Dr. Katarina Lindley out of Dallas, Texas, during the height of COVID. She was a doctor who was, absolutely against the shot clot and really pushed these 8 natural ingredients. They're just evenly spaced out and dosed appropriately over 4 capsules. And we take those at bedtime to keep our immune system, boosted. Um, yeah, we've got it all minus protein. We had protein. We weren't known for our protein. It was delicious. It was a wonderful German blend that we sourced out of Germany. And, we just weren't known for it. And then, the last economy really tanked our protein sales. So we dropped that one, but we've got 9 or 11 products, testosterone
Nice.
boosters that help your testosterone increase naturally I like to use it as a precursor for guys prior to TRT therapy if needed. And then we have something called M.E.R.T Muscle Performance Endurance Recovery Complex. That is a Dailurong deer antler, Chinese herbal medicine, and a little bit of green tea and a little bit of creatine in there as well. It's a 3-capsule product that helps with recovery and not so much strength, but just more endurance recovery type healing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still running at my age. I need all the recovery. The recovery. Well, it sounds amazing, man. And there's this all you can all order it online and
Yep.
all that.
Yeah. All online at alphalete.performance.com. Yeah.
Yeah, cool beans, dude. Good for you, man. I mean, tell us about is that Project Recon? What's that?
Project Recon.
I see
Yeah.
a brain on that hat, dude. I'm all about brain things, man. What you got going on there?
Yeah. So I love the brain as well. I really do. I've always been in benevolence, and I've helped the Green Beret Foundation, worked at the Green Beret Foundation as a director of programs and community relations. Started the program there. Well, let me back up. Got into stem cells when I had my injury and went out to the Bahamas to have my own mesenchymal cells, which comes from your adipose tissue. I had that sucked out, the adipose tissue, get a little bit of liposuction. They spin it down, they get the mesenchymal stem cells and mix it with mannitol to help break the brain barrier and then for brain health. And I really noticed a difference with that. I felt great. It's a weird taste also that you get because the stem cells are going into your blood because it's an IV push. And so I was like, man, this is fascinating. So really just kind of read up on stem cells and cord blood stem cells versus mesenchymal and how they work. Found that umbilical cord stem cells work a lot better than the mesenchymal cells because mesenchymal cells, if you think about it, they're your own age. You've got these billions and trillions of cells in your body. I mean, even when you're in the womb of your mother, and so you've got all these stem cells in your body. Umbilical cord, these little guys, think about it as an ODA. They're a special forces team. And there's that 118 Bravo, and he knows that he needs to make work or he needs to find work. And that's what these stem cells will do. And so they'll go into the body. If it's the microlesions on the brain from blasts, from overpressure and stuff like that, it will find those microlesions on the brain and it'll start getting to work. And it's an 18 Delta now, and he's suturing this stuff up, if you can think about it like that.
Wow.
And that's what the stem cells do. So I actually ran a nonprofit as well back in the day for a hot minute. And we took 24 guys out to the Bahamas at a place called Okeanos. and did that procedure of liposuction out of the adipose tissue and getting their mesenchymal. We did it for everywhere from Chris Van Zant, former Delta guy. He had some really bad plantar fasciitis and couldn't, I mean, he loves to climb mountains, and I think he has climbed all the 14ers in the world now. I don't know, but
Wow.
he said that stem cells really saved his life on that, or his feet. To brain health as well, to joint injections. So really, I love stem cells, and I plan to make a product with it as well. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't already working on it.
So we had a stem cell guy on the show, and he was saying that the adipose, the brown fat, they're like they're the young. They replace themselves every 7 days. It's supposed to be like the newest cells or anything, something like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
but
I
they're
don't know,
coming from the ones that are already in there. I mean, he's not wrong by any means. It really just depends on who you talk to.
but not as good as umbilical.
Brand new babies, man. Those things are great, and they're washed. And when I say washed, the blood, things are taken out of them and all that. So there's no A positive. You're not putting somebody else's blood in your system. But these bad boys are ready to rock and roll. And so at Project Recon, and so it's a nonprofit that I started, projectrecon.org. We provide stem cell therapy for soft operators, guy or girl, anybody that can show us that they were in a soft unit and has a diagnosed TBI, moderate to severe, mild as well. We provide stem cell therapy for them for their TBI, for the effects of TBI, to combat those effects of TBI. So yeah, so we're working on a couple guys right now. One's a pretty serious case that we're raising additional funds for, because he's also a cop in California. He's a former Green Beret, and he's a hurting
Cops don't
unit.
get a break. Cops,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
our first responders don't get a break, dude.
yeah, yeah.
Well, good for you, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, let us know, I mean, if we can, how we can help spread the word, and help or raise money, man. We'll get the word out there, because
Yeah,
yeah, I'll talk to you after the show, because I got a bad shoulder.
yeah.
I
Well,
gotta
and
get
that's
this
what
thing
that's what they're
fixed.
great for, and we can square you away. Is that, they direct inject those stem cells into that pocket of the
Yeah.
shoulder, and they get in there and they start working on that cartilage, and they start to help repair. You got 102 different cells in your body. These stem cells, these cord blood stem cells, are looking for anything to stick themselves to start
There's
healing.
no way it's gonna repair that gap. I'm missing a rotator tear. I got a
Yeah.
rotator tear, man. It's gotta
Well,
be.
so that is the one place on my body. I've had 5 surgeries on this shoulder. That's the one place that it didn't feel it take like it did in other places.
Yeah.
Ankle reconstruction, I had a cadaver ligament put in and all that stuff. Man, my ankle is wonderful.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great post-surgery.
yeah, because I was looking if I got that tear repaired, but I'm looking at different I don't know, we'll talk after the show, man.
Yeah,
But dude, I'm into this health stuff, man. It's
yeah, good.
but it's amazing what you're doing for the brain. So tell us how, because so how do the stem cells cross the brain blood the brain blood barrier, man? How do they do you have to adapt them or something,
Well,
or do they
so
cross naturally?
they cross naturally. That now, if you direct inject them into the spinal cord region area, then they'll definitely get to the brain in that cerebral spinal fluid.
Okay.
That is the best way to do it. That is a surgical procedure, so that you have to be in a sterile environment at a hospital to do that. And in some cases, for severe cases, that's what is done. For the most part, we do it IV. And what we like to have are patients that also don't have a lot of other injuries, because we want as many of those stem cells to go to the brain to help heal those microlesions and damage to the brain. So, but they can have a missing limb. And so, I mean, stem cells don't regrow your limb, but we just don't want them to have just been in an accident with other massive healing going on. So they definitely, to be a good candidate, they have to really we're focusing on the brain. So some of those good candidates are like, the gentleman we're trying to raise some money for, is that he's had multiple, TBIs that are really, really declining his cognitive space in his brain. And if you know the story about Major Darren Baldwin, who he
Yeah.
passed away because of those effects and the symptoms of his TBIs and his 2 blasts that he had. 10 years it took him from a healthy West Point badass Green Beret to nonverbal, non-moving quad, who passed. So
Yeah, and
that's
thanks
what
for
we're trying
bringing
to.
him up. When I was,
Yeah,
when I was fortunate enough to help the Green Beret Foundation start, and
yeah.
he was, one of the, guys that we showcased, for, to raise money. Say, look, this is what's happening to our guys. But you know what? I didn't even know back then. I thought it was just the impact those 2 IEDs. I didn't know it was also I didn't know about brain trauma, dude. You think as a Green Beret, all the combat deployments, all that additional trauma in addition to those 2 blasts, think about what that did to him, man. So,
Yeah, Bruce, I mean, I wouldn't call it an epidemic, but like since 2009, I think there's been 433 diagnosed, recorded, moderate to severe TBIs in the military. And a lot of those, there's a lot of soft guys that go undiagnosed because I want to stay on the teams. I don't want to, I can't go to the hospital. But we're seeing what I'm told is when these guys are getting out, they have those TBIs and that brain damage, and it's causing them to act the way that they're acting with the I don't give a shit attitude. I've lost my sense of self, but who gives a shit? Nobody's really going to recognize me anyway. That it's when they get out, they do lose this, they have this loss of self and loss of identity, and they think that nobody's going to be able to relate to them. And that there's some brain trauma, to that, because they shouldn't be thinking that way. A Green Beret is a guy who can adapt. He can, like I said, get in and find work, make work. These guys should be getting out with a healthy brain so that they can get out, find work, make work for them, as opposed to just sitting around not doing anything and moping. And then a lot of guys are doing that. And what are they doing at the end? They're committing suicide. And I'll tell you, a soft operator will commit suicide quicker than shit. They won't tell you about it. They're not going to
no.
ask for help. They're just like, I'm done. Boom.
I've had a lot of, I was on that boat, that SF cruise a couple years ago, man.
Yeah, I
There's a
heard about
lot of boys there that I'm like, man, Sarge, you got to stop drinking. I mean, it's just, but then I also ran into guys that've been through ibogaine, and they're like, hey, let's have some sparkling water, bro. And these are like I used to drink with these men back
yeah,
like Vikings, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
to your point, there are too many of our men and women getting out, and they feel like they're all alone, dude. And a lot of it is emotional dysregulation due to brain damage that they don't know about. They just think this is the way it is. They're depressed, they get out. And then I don't know why, we don't communicate, man. I mean, we just don't, we don't share the love, man. We're not looking out for each other, and and I think more importantly, we're not looking for help. And these men and women will sit out there until they're done, and they're like, I'm out of here, dude. And when we know that there's so many things you just outlined, 3 or 4 treatments that can help them get back on their feet. You haven't even mentioned psychedelics or stellate ganglion blocks or brain optimization and H-bot, vagus nerve stimulation, photobiomodulation, all these other things that are out there. There's an entire Chinese food menu that we're pushing at in Congress right now to say, look, the brain's different, right? You might have stem cells might work from you with this and that, and go find it out, but it's free because you got hurt, protecting our country and protecting our folks.
Well, I'll tell you, it starts with them asking for help. And I tell that, when I do a lot of speaking engagements, I talk to veterans and I say, you got to ask for help. But on the other side too, those that have had help or that don't really need help, but go find those guys that need the help and offer the help. Guide them in the right direction. I mean, that's what we're here for. Veterans are a different breed than civilians. We have traumatized our bodies for so long, or for so little. It doesn't take it doesn't take that long, but we're just a different breed. But we've got a new family, and we got to look out for one of another. And so, but also those guys need to ask for help. I'll tell you that stem cells, everything that you just said, H-bot is amazing prior to stem cells. Oxygen enriched blood in the body. Stem cells love that. H-bot's great. SGB, they're now starting to do, stem cells along with SGB for that stellate ganglion block, for that stellate ganglion nerve, to help heal that. To psychedelics that complement it. I have done, the God one. Did I need to do it? I did the 5
MEO
5-MeO
DMT. You went right to the Everest mountain, man.
I did it 3 times. 3 times. Yeah, like I did it one time and I was like, it was like a what the F moment. And then I sat up and I said, let's do it again. And then the third time, and the second one was deep. The third time took me to a place. All I say now is that if that's what love is, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. So, but I'll say that a lot of this stuff complements a lot of these treatments that we're doing. Talk therapy is, I think, needed with all of these. You do SGB.
Integration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to do it all. And then also, and maintenance is not a bad thing. Don't think it's one and done. You do ibogaine, you're not one and done. I mean, for the most part, a lot of these guys are, but you're not.
They're not. That's just the start of the journey, bro.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, dude. That's a lot of guys don't understand that, and I've done them all. And until I started doing integration, once I realized what the hell I was just suffering through a lot of it, just the whole, realization, dealing with trauma, all that. And then I started figuring out, man, I need to talk to somebody about some of this shit.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then I started meditating, journaling, getting, really one-on-one. And but then the other part is the physiological part of these psychedelics. They impact the brain like, M.E.R.T or anything out there. They rewire that sucker. I mean,
Yeah.
you're
They start
tired when
healing
you
the
get done with them,
neuroplasticity of
man.
the brain.
Yeah. So you get the spiritual side's kind of like a perk, right? You go in there to get your brain fixed. And next thing you get out, like, man, I feel like I'm like loving, and kind and gentler and all. And you really
Yeah.
do. It's an amazing.
And I will tell you that I went deep. I was in that for almost an hour because the guy he was like, okay, no more after this. I was
That's
like,
a lot. You did 3 sessions in one day?
yeah, yeah, 1 hour.
Dude, that's a first. Yeah,
Yeah. I got
that
it all on
that'll
video as well.
that's deep, dude. That's
Yeah,
deep.
it
Yeah.
was like I'm telling you, I was more curious. I was there to support other people. So I was more curious. And they all did it one time. I think they were 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
max.
It's all it lasts.
And I was like, okay, I can do this. Let's do this. That looks like nothing. It really wasn't nothing. I mean, it was, I didn't see God. A lot of people say you're going to meet God. You're going to sit at the feet of God and all that. I'll meet God when I'm dead. I'm pretty sure. I went in there thinking I really wanted to learn from this. If there was any healing that needed to happen, I prayed that it would help heal whatever needed to be healed. And I wanted to take my wife with me. And that last third one that I did that took me to a place that I can't even describe, I was
Mhm.
holding her hand. And I remember being in there. I could see her hand and she was with me in there. And it was the most beautiful place I'd ever been in my entire life. And I knew that she was behind me and I just was running or something. I can't remember. But when I looked at her, I came back, I could tell where I was at. And she was the most beautiful, everybody around me was the most beautiful people I'd ever seen in my life. Eyes were glowing. This grape was put in front of my face, and it was the most beautiful grape I'd ever seen in my life. I did this in Sedona, where apparently the frequency is really high and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there's some stuff going on in Sedona, yeah. They
So
say,
it
yeah.
was a healing journey, but did I need it? No. Will I do it again? No. But I applaud everybody that is brave enough to do it. It's not a bad thing. It's a healing thing. And so many of these guys need it. And Vets Solutions, thank God to them for doing what they're doing as far
Yeah,
as
they're
helping.
amazing.
That I think it's great. Again, not for everybody, and they know that, and that's why they make you do the homework, the due diligence prior to going. So it's not just going to be a vacation and a one and done type of thing. You need to do the work, like you said, and before you do your ibogaine journey. So, but kind of like stem cells as well. Same thing. Like we're looking for at Project Recon, we're looking for the moderate to severe. What is your lifestyle like? You can't be an alcoholic. You're definitely not going to drink after because alcohol will kill the stem cells. They
Really?
kill
Yeah, good point.
minimum 3 months. I don't even want you working out hard for at least a month after the fact as well. Give the stem cells time to start healing the body and the brain. So that's what you need to focus on after getting stem cells is just kind of not being a a bump on a log, but still work out, but nothing crazy and no alcohol.
Dude, yeah, it's kind of funny how you go through the spiritual stuff, you don't even wanna drink anymore, man, but
Yeah.
dude, Travis, thank you so much. I mean, coming on the show. But before we end, it's time for the Travis Wilson Show. Tell us about what you got going on. How do people find you? Websites, books, whatever you got going on. What's next for you and your organizations and everything that you're doing before we close out here?
Right on. Yeah. So if you want to support Alpha Elite Performance, you can go to alphaeliteperformance.com. You can use code Elite15. It'll save you 15%. It'll be a show special there. But then Project Recon, projectrecon.org. If you want to make a donation there, just go to Project Recon. And Recon is spelled CON. Project Recon. So there's a reason to that. And then, right now we have a fundraiser for a guy, like I said, I don't want to say his name, but he's a police officer in Oakland, and he's a former Green Beret dealing with some severe issues stemming from his TBI. And this is a much larger case than we're used to. So we're raising money for that. And you can donate that money at projectrecon.org as well.
Good. Okay.
So, but other than that, what I got going on, a lot of, I like to talk. So any speaking engagements that anybody ever wants to bring me on, I'm there for, as long as it's about transition or helping guys and gals heal. I'm all about that. So yeah, I'm out in Pittsburgh this next week at Seneca Valley for Ryan Gloyer, who passed away, 10th group guy. We're doing a 5K run for him. So I'm going to go out and support Ed Gloyer, his father. So
Nice, man. Yeah,
yeah.
I got to get back in the fold, but I'm too busy right now. But I'll get it. But thank you for doing it, man. And
Absolutely.
so Travis, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Amazing journey with you, man. Congratulations on your success. Best wishes on your future, and we
Thank you.
will absolutely push out Project Recon. Let's talk after this about our Army Navy game tailgate and see if how it can benefit you. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, folks, another great edition of Broken Brains. Really thank you for your time. Remember, free book on the website, Youth Contact Sports of Broken Brains, written by yours truly. It's free. So go get it, become informed, learn. The rewritten version will be out in 2 months. I got another company I got to focus on right now, but I'll get it out there. The HeadSmart app is on the Google Store, Apple Store, the only concussive app out there that has information on repetitive ed impacts, so you can watch your kid. And don't forget our Army-Navy game, December 13th, Army versus Navy. We got the biggest tailgate going on there. We got a fuel concert. We're looking at an AC/DC act. All you can drink, partner with Horse Soldier Bourbon and Rip It Energy Drinks. If you guys remember the box stuff over there, and they're still around. They sent us 2 pallets of drinks. And we got it, but 100% of the monies goes to veterans, mental health programs, and suicide prevention programs, much like what Travis got going on right here. So please, we're looking for sponsors. Feel like contributing, show up. We got VIP tickets. It's an entire day, and we have a watch party after that's going to be sponsored by the Blue Angels Foundation. So like us, subscribe us, push us out there. Please let everybody know what we're talking about on Broken Brains. And if you got children, remember, they only got one melon. Take care of those kids, will you? God bless you all. We'll talk to you later and see you on the next time with Broken Brains with Bruce Parkman. Talk to you later. Thank you, man.